Okay, so people ask me all the time, do you understand what you're supporting when you support Black Lives Matter? Let me tell you what I'm supporting when I think of Black Lives Matter. I'm supporting our right to exist in this country that we were brought to involuntarily. Our right to make happiness what we will within the country that we live. I am supporting the right of our men, women, and children not to be brutalized by those that are supposed to help exact and enforce the law in non-lethal ways. I am supporting the right of Philando Castile to live. I'm supporting the right of Sandra Bland to live. I'm supporting the right of Trayvon Martin to live and Tamir Rice to live. I'm supporting the right of Hydea Pendleton to live. I'm supporting the right of Lakita Bryant to live. I'm supporting the right to say, you have this wrong. You are treating us as subhuman in very stark instances when we know, had it been a counterpart of another race, the outcome very likely could have been something very different. So when I say something like defund the police, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying take away all resources from the police to do their job. I am simply saying reallocate the resources that they clearly are not trained enough to execute to those that are medical, psychological, emotional experts, so that we might have a better chance of de-escalating a situation before it gets to a point. But on top of that, I am also saying that in this country, when we are simply following the law as it's been told to us, and as we've all had those talks with our mothers, our fathers, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our aunts and uncles, about what to do when you are stopped and you are black, put both hands on the wheel. Don't explain anything that you're doing without specifically showing the officers what you are attempting to do. When we do that, and yet we still have the ability and, quite frankly, the likelihood of being stopped, of being brutalized, of being possibly killed, when we're telling you what it is we're doing and why we're doing it, then something is most definitely wrong. something has to be wrong when the practice of police persons across the country within their training is shoot to kill. Understood. But what I don't understand is why that is the practice to begin with. You will never be able to convince me that shoot to kill as soon as you walk up is the appropriate and right practice to use when dealing with an altercation. You'll never be able to convince me of that. I am not the target demographic you are trying to reach anyway. I am not the Donald Trump demographic that you're trying to reach. I am a person that is very inquisitive. I want to know why these things are happening. I want to know how I can stop them from happening. And the best I can come up with is that the whole policing structure has to be overhauled. Look at the clear definition of policing back in the 18th and 19th century as it relates to slavery and what that meant for slaves who tried to escape the plantation and the owners that they were owned by. The policing system does not work for everybody because it was designed not to work for everybody. It worked for a select few who acquiesce to this police narrative that's often bullshit, but it does not work for those who have experienced the system either on a second or first-hand basis, whom look at it and whom say, no, it's a double standard here. Which reminds me, we also need to have the ability to look at why we have yet to adopt a South Africa model of looking at the scourge and the sin that was apartheid. Meaning, they created within their system of government, once they decided to get rid of apartheid, they created a truth and consequences commission. And I may be wrong on the name, so excuse me. But that commission basically looked at the fact that they hadn't dealt with the sin of segregation to begin with. And if every time your go-to sentiment is, well, I wasn't here and I didn't commit the original sin of slavery, even though the original sin of this country is how we treated Native Americans by taking their land, and then second to that is the original sin of slavery. But my point being that if slavery is at least one of the original sins, and yet we don't adequately and academically and in the streets look at what created those systems, why those systems exist, And most importantly, how do we get rid of those systems so that we are on equal footing? We are doomed to repeat the history that's already gone by. And a hit dog will holler, meaning that, in the words of the great Maya Angelou, to use another analogy, if someone shows you who they are, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Not saying that reform can't be done, but it has to be done in a majorative way. And the only way for things to be done in a majorative way is for us as Black people, as allies, as Native Americans, as Asians, as disabled people, as people a part of the LGBTQIA+ community, as people who are of any marginalized group that may be out there, as people of Native American descent, as people of Latinx descent, as people of Latin descent, period. The only way for us to get rid of this overwhelming sense of despair is to change the system in which we live, and change it on a macro level, meaning locally, statewide, and federally, about how police interaction and the interaction between Black folks and our white counterparts and those of other minority groups interact with each other. We have to change the way we think about these things. We have to see things for the way that they are. We have to stop in the blaming and the castration of Black plight for our positioning and our presence of mind in this country. We have to be better as a collective so we can treat individuals better as individuals or as individual entities. That is the only way we will get somewhere. That's just my commentary. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Like the video if you wish. If you don't wish, I understand. Come back for the next video. Maybe I'll hit on something that hits for you. We gotta change the way we are, y'all. This isn't our fault, but it is ultimately our future. Have a great evening. I love y'all. Think about it. See you next time.